Very early in the piece, I was told that to get mindful, one of the easiest ways to get into a mindful state was to run uphill. Okay, so instantly running uphill, your focus narrows and you literally come down to that meter or so of concrete or pavement in front of you, and you just go, got to make one more step, got to make one more step, got to make one more step. Your focus comes to your breathing, your awareness is on your thighs and your calves and your feet and your arms, and just that is enough. Just focusing on your breath and your body, and that step by step progress up the hill is the essence of mindfulness encapsulated. So why would we practice mindfulness outside of that environment? Why isn't running enough in mindfulness for us? And that was a great question. That's what I asked. I said, well, I do mindfulness when I run, so isn't that enough? Aren't I sort of getting to that mindful state, and isn't that what I need to be doing? And the response was, for sure, that can be enough, but it's more the point of running uphill isn't available to you across all aspects of life, is it? So if you're in a situation that, like you're sitting in a dentist chair, how can you simulate that running uphill when you're getting your tooth drilled and you want to enter a mindfulness state? Or when you're waiting at the airport and for an hour and you have to just sit there and wait, what do you do then? How do you get into a mindful state? Do you start running on the spot? No, what mindfulness offers is that similar intensity of awareness, focus, and attention, but without having to be in the state of running. Okay, so what it does is we're getting to that key mindset or that key mental state without all the physicality or without all the. It's making it more accessible, in short. And that's what mindfulness gives us, because when we're just about to do a presentation in front of 10,000 people and walk onto the stadium, we can, maybe some people do running as a way to warm up, but it's good to be able to have mindfulness as an accessible state instantly available to you simply by breathing or simply by doing your mindfulness process. So what exactly is a mindfulness process? Well, for me, I have a routine and a ritual established around it for when I just do my longer practices. But for mine, running was actually such an accessible way to get into it that I'd use sitting on a cushion as another version of mindfulness. And then another version of mindfulness I'd enter would be when I was gardening and digging holes and mowing the lawn and in that state. And another version of mindfulness is when I'm at the beach, when I'm surfing, when I'm swimming. And another version of mindfulness is when I'm drawing and painting. And another version of mindfulness is when I'm listening to music. So each of these different entry points into mindfulness just give us so much more strength and a much more, it's like widening the path, the neural pathways in our brain. If we make mindfulness accessible like from 20 different entry points, it becomes more like a freeway and less like a little narrow track that we have to stumble upon through all the thorns and stuff. So it becomes such a simple, accessible path that we fall naturally into mindfulness, or it's so much more a natural state than this thing where it might be only achieved through running, where we go, oh, and you can almost mourn not being able to go for a run. And by being able to get into a mindfulness state across so many different environmental settings, you become more mindful across all settings as a general rule. Because let's not forget, the skills of mindfulness are so relevant under crisis or under expectation or under pressure or in the midst of battle, some people call it, when you have a child or an episode happening with a family incident, and you can go, wait a minute, I'm going to be mindful, and I'm going, and you can just step back, have some perspective, have some clarity, and make the right decision. Or when you have a customer a complaint and you're dealing with a challenging behavior from the customer, by having the mindfulness toolkit with you at all times, you're able to step back, diffuse the situation, and respond more appropriately for yourself and your business in that time. That's what mindfulness is about. So back to mindfulness and running. The big thing with running that keeps drawing me back is that it's literally a journey. It's literally running and getting out there and pacing, and you actually see you've covered ground, and that's spiritually and emotionally and mentally as well as physically. So without the mindfulness aspect though, on my runs, I noticed I would actually go for a run and I could begin a rumination or a thought groove could be just grinded in on something that wasn't helpful. I could start ruminating on, and let's just take some general ones, like on bank fees and being charged a late payment fee for a bank account that was overdrawn because a payment hadn't gone through, because the bank had it on a check, and it was sort of this grey area that I would come away feeling cheated or hard done by the bank, and I could take that with me on a run and turn that rumination into I hate the banks, and they did this, and it's financial, and it could just go on, and that rumination would follow me for the whole journey, the whole run. So I'd spend 45 minutes of toxicity, and it wasn't helpful, and it just made me sort of bitter and withdrawn, and it was grim, and it was a hard run. Whereas with mindfulness now, I can be aware of those thoughts bubble that inevitably do come out, because one aspect of running is that running is motion, and the motion brings up emotion. So as you have this emotion bubbling up, with mindfulness you're able to see them as just thoughts, and to not identify with the thoughts or the emotion, and to set it aside and move forward with clarity and perspective and non-judgment and non-comparison, and keep going. And that's the beauty of running in a nutshell, with mindfulness, being able to have the motion bring up emotion, but then you can set it aside, process it, let it go. So as you run, as you bring things up, you process it and you let it go, and that's when running just goes to another level, and it becomes a spiritual release. And for me, I know I do it now, and after 7 kilometers or so of running, my body is the blood is flowing, I'm fully warmed up, I'm getting some endorphins giving me back that lightness and that high feeling throughout, and I'm sort of hitting my pinging state, and I can run and actually run faster, like go into sort of a sprint, which for 43-year-old man sounds amazing, and it is. It feels amazing. It feels like a sprint, but I'm just going at like 80% my tops, or pretty much my fastest speed, which is about 80%. And when I lift that speed, I can feel it coming out of me and releasing it, and I say to myself, open your heart and be vulnerable, and leave it all out here now. And by running that fast with the endorphins going and my whole body in that heightened state, and every muscle pretty much lifting and striding forwards and running really fast alongside the beach with the ocean, with waves crashing, and you're sort of running on the platform around the ocean. It's just everything combined with the mindfulness state of having that, letting things go and going, letting things go, and saying surrender, surrender as I run. It's a religious experience. It's unreal experience for me right now. That's one of my peak states. At the end of my run for the last kilometre, I get around to where the beach hits the harbour, so I've got ocean on both sides, and I'm running along a break wall, so it's literally running into the ocean on a rock wall. And to run at full speed along there, even in winter when the rain's splashing against your face and you're running at full speed, you're drenched in sweat, there's no one around, it's early in the morning or late, just on dusk, and you're running going surrender, let it out, surrender, let it out, and having the confidence to run fast and not being fearful of being injured, which is such a big thing with running in your 40s, going, if I go all out, will I actually run into injury? That's the tightrope I walk each time I run, is to not push myself too hard or strive too hard and strive into injury. So you've got to always be pulling back just to know you don't want to be injured. You've got to have that restraint. But after that 7 kilometers, I'm pretty warm, pretty fresh, and that last kilometer running along the break wall as fast as I can. It's only for about 500 meters or so, and to feel my lungs bursting open and everything just fully dilated and open, and the oxygen is just, such a release. It's such a magnificent experience. And then to come to the end of the run, like you run out on the break wall, then you turn around and you run back, and as you come back into towards the beach, to slow down and come into a warm down period, and then go into a forward bend. So to sit on the pavement and just bend forward my hands and hold my hands around my feet, so my nose is going towards my knees and I'm just bending forward, and to unhinge all that tension and all the pounding of the pavement and all that intensity in the back of my thighs and my hamstrings and my lower back, and then to bend forward and release it in that yoga stretch is just sublime. It's and then hold the breath and just exhale and maybe go a bit deeper and feel the release of the deep stretch, and just let it all go again. Those processes, or those physical states of running at peak and then pause, and when coming back down, and as you regather your breath, drop into a deep fold and just hold it with the breath, and do like a cycle of 60 breaths or 3 minutes, so 5 minutes, even 10 minutes, just in a forward bend, and feel the energy bouncing around your body is just sublime. And then you go back to your mindfulness state in there. As emotions and as thoughts bubble up, you wave them aside and come back to your breath, and just remain focused, remain with your awareness on your breath and releasing the thoughts as they arise. That, to me, that is running and mindfulness. My name's Bren Murphy. My blog is brenmurphy.net. I've also got a mindfulness course, mindbodycalm.com.au. I'd love you to come and join it. Thank you very much.